Next, we have Phil Calabrese with Boom Algae.
How's everybody doing today? Good. Does my microphone sound all right? Okay. So, hi, my name is Phil Calabrese. I'm the CEO of Boom Algae, and today I'm going to tell you a bit about why we think change is brewing in the algae industry. So, Boom Algae got started one day when I grew incredibly tired of looking at test tubes like this guy in the research lab while doing my PhD at the University of Colorado Boulder. And I decided to do something a little more exciting, get out of the lab a little bit, and start a business. What better business to start as a graduate student in the last year of your PhD than one that requires you to go to all the microbreweries in the area to talk, first to drink beer, and secondly, to talk with brewery owners about how they can become more a part of the sustainability movement that I see really going on all around us and in Colorado. You see, when you brew beer, you make a pretty appreciable amount of carbon dioxide during fermentation, and when you drink beer, you need to make more beer. And then the more beer you drink, essentially, it's the more carbon dioxide you make. And once this process gets started, it becomes increasingly difficult to stop. And as we all know, being at a climate summit, CO2 is a greenhouse gas, and I believe that technologies that prevent greenhouse gases from building up our environment and prevent, of course, heat from dissipating into outer space, it acidifies the ocean, causes icebergs to melt. To put in perspective about how bad our drinking problem is in the United States, CO2 from beer making is about equivalent to the amount of CO2 on the road in the state of West Virginia on a per year basis, at about 1.5 million tons of CO2 per year just from beer brewing alone. So we talked to a bunch of brewery owners about this concept, and we finally found one that was willing to take the walk with us as we started this new venture. So how do we do it? How do we take carbon dioxide that's normally vented into the atmosphere and turn it into something useful? Answer's pretty obvious. It's Boom Algae, right? So what we do is we take carbon dioxide, we route it to an on-site greenhouse where carbon dioxide is kept at a high concentration in the gaseous environment. In that greenhouse, we grow algae in a proprietary way that produces it as a paste, and I'll get more to that in a moment and why that's important. From that paste, we powderize the algae and we make premium bioproducts that are vegan, gluten-free, and all non-GMO. And I'll get to what those products will be in a minute too. Just wanted to touch quickly on the potential market segments for algae-based products. We heard a company before talk about how they're doing some really innovative things in fuels. And I think there can definitely be a lot of great progress made there. But for now, as a small company, we're really focusing on consumer products and niche food products, but an enormous potential for algae. Some examples of consumer products that are out there already are omega-3 oils, antioxidants, cosmetics, soluble proteins, and food ingredients. A lot of these products are not customer-facing, they're sold business to business. So these markets are just kind of being established. People are making these things at volume and then selling them to larger companies. Our go-to-market strategy is to work with a Boulder-based company called Applied Food Sciences, and I believe this can be a very beneficial mutual relationship between our two companies because we each can leverage each other's expertise. AFS has 20 years of experience in developing niche food ingredients. I don't know if you've ever seen like green coffee bean extract. It's shown up in Starbucks. They developed that. And they have an interest in developing an algae flour. So one way we can get to final products faster is not try to separate out all the different constituents of the algae, but rather just be a biomass producer and powderize it and then sell it either as a baking flour, which is something we'll have to develop alongside AFS, or just a powder it's going to be rich in soluble proteins, micronutrients. It's going to have omega-3 oils, so it's going to be a lot more nutritious than traditional flours that are out there right now. And so the partnership with AFS, they can develop IP around a certain strain that we intend to grow. They already have some market presence. They can develop clinical science and help kind of finance the project along as we go through. Now I just want to touch on, I've been working on this for about 2 years, and I have a PhD in biochemistry, but I was not an algae expert when I started by any means. Reading about this whole industry, though, I think the glaring thing that is just cutting the legs out of it is that everybody's trying to grow algae in water. That might not say, that might sound like that compelling of a thing, but let me just show you a picture of a scaled-up algae cultivation facility, and I believe this is in Hawaii. These facilities require a tremendous amount of land. Okay, so to really reach the energy and food demands that we need, you need to build these facilities on tens of thousands of acres of land, if not more. Second is the amount of water that they require. They require, right now, current estimates according to like NREL for technologies are about a few years ago, 600 gallons of water per gallon of algae oil, plus the amount of energy you need to extract all of the water out from the algae to get to the useful products. So you have to go through a process called dewatering. Anybody who knows about algae and the challenges in it has probably heard of that. We've come up with a way to alleviate that dewatering step and really grow more algae per square foot in a more harvestable way. This is just a pictorial example of what we have. We have it built in a lab, but the way it works is the algae builds up as a biofilm on a rotating conveyor system that goes in and out of a low nutrient pool where there's an inoculum of algae. The algae stick to that film, they grow continuously on it, and then the film is harvested as a 10% paste. In this way, I mean, you could just see the way it's designed, you're growing more in the vertical direction, you're growing it more densely, so you're gonna save on the amount of land per output of algae that you need. You're also gonna save on your water and on your energy because the processing is gonna be less intensive. In addition to that, the algae experience light directly. So another problem in engineering algae systems is that you have to continuously sparge the water and get the algae to the outside to see the light. In this way, algae are just going to see the light directly, and they experience CO2 in the gas phase directly, which helps with their CO2 uptake. And I think some more knowledge still needs to be kind of built around that. All these factors together are going to increase our bottom line. So far, for this company, we've raised just a little over $200,000 in non-dilutive capital from the sources you see there. A lot of that I give credit to the great network of entrepreneurs and mentors and people who are just trying to get young companies off the ground in Colorado. So yeah, I mean, that's how we've gotten now off the ground. We've got a great team of young, motivated people as well as advisors that are helping us. I'm finding so many people in Colorado that have either worked for algae companies before that folded, that still want to help, or researchers at NREL. I mean, really a lot of support from the community and just bouncing ideas off of one another. And just to talk about the team that works on the project, I'm the CEO, co-founder. I have a background in biotech and building. Daniel Higgs is a materials chemist. He's finishing up his PhD at CU right now. And Nicole Fry got her MBA from CU when we were all working on this, and she has worked for DOE before. We've been catching a lot of traction too. Being in the media is a good thing, but it's also a bad thing because I just get tons of inquiries that sometimes they're off the wall. But yeah, we were in 5280 magazine, and on the bottom there is an architectural drawing we just submitted to Boulder City and kind of conceptualize what we want this to look like. That is the Boulder South Flatiron Court location in Boulder, where we plan to have a co-located greenhouse with upslope brewing, hopefully by summer 2016. But the permitting process is quite intense in Boulder, so working with an architect right now who's really talented to get us through that. With that, I just want to say thank you to everybody who helped put on Startup Green. I thought all the teams really learned a lot from one another. I made a lot of great connections here this weekend, and I feel like I had some really genuine interactions. So thanks for your attention, and any questions you have, I'll appreciate it. Yes.
What is the state of algae for fuel research and application?
Well, I see a lot of innovation happening, or new ideas, I guess, coming out. The one company that's doing it at the biggest scale right now is a company called Algenol, and they make ethanol from algae, which is slightly different than something that's similar to petroleum or an oil-based product. Another thing that's just come online is something called hydrothermal liquefaction, which basically just heats up the algae. A company called Algae Systems does this, and they catch toxic blooms that are coming off the Gulf Coast, And then they just heat the algae to a really high temperature and make a crude oil out of it. They also don't try to separate out all the products. So those are two things I see that are kind of new that you might not know if you haven't been paying attention. Yeah.
So, classic question. What's your biggest challenge that you face, but with the asterisks, not the generic startup challenges, but specific to your IP?
Specific to our IP?
Or your space, yeah.
I think one of the biggest challenges is going to be product development and carving out a real niche product that's unique. I take the philosophy, I want to focus our company on one thing and do one thing well. I see a lot of algae companies diversifying everything they do, which is a strategy to use, but for our size, I think our biggest challenge is finding that one product that works the best with our cultivation system and kind of uses all the concepts that are going together with it. And that's why I like the powderized algae concept, because we're already harvesting at a higher solids content, so we can get there faster. I'm over. So, all right. Thanks, everybody.